I never thought I'd be telling this story, but here I am sitting in my cozy home office, coffee in hand, reflecting on a time that changed everything. My name is Jason, and this is my story. It was a Friday evening, the aroma of my mom's famous lasagna wafting through the air, filling me with nostalgia. My sister Claire was already seated at the dining table, her laughter ringing like a bell as she shared an inside joke with our parents. Claire was the golden child, the one who could do no wrong in their eyes. She had a successful career as a marketing executive, and her life seemed perfect. Meanwhile, I was still trying to find my footing after a series of failed business ventures. Our family dinners were usually filled with warmth, but that night tension lingered in the air. Mom had set the table with our favorite plates, the ones she saved for special occasions. I could sense something was off, a nervous energy that made my stomach uneasy. As our parents joined us, the conversation flowed naturally, talking about work, travel plans, and life in general. But then, my dad, a tall man with a booming voice that commanded attention, cleared his throat. "We have something important to discuss," he said, looking directly at Claire. My heart raced. I had a sinking feeling that this was going to be about her. "Claire," he started, "your mother and I have decided to give you the house. You've worked so hard, and you deserve it." My stomach dropped. I looked at my mom, hoping for some kind of support, but she simply nodded in agreement. "Dad, wait," I interjected, trying to keep my voice steady. "What about me? I've been working hard too." Claire smirked, her eyes gleaming. "Oh, Jason, you're still trying to figure your life out. Maybe you should take some notes from me instead of sulking in self-pity." Her mocking tone stung, and I felt the heat rise to my cheeks, my heart racing with a mix of anger and humiliation. Dad's expression hardened. "Jason, you need to understand. Claire is successful. You have struggled. You need to face the reality." "Face reality?" I shot back, my voice rising. "You think this is reality? Kicking me out of my childhood home because I'm not as successful as Claire?" "Enough," Dad barked. "You're a failure, and Claire deserves this." His words pierced through me like a knife. The warmth of family dinner had turned into a battleground. After that night, everything changed. I packed a few bags and moved out, crashing at a friend's place. It was surreal, leaving the house that had been my home for so long. I could hardly focus on my job, which was already unstable. I spent my days wallowing in self-pity, questioning my choices, my abilities, and most importantly, my worth. Claire, on the other hand, seemed to thrive. She posted pictures of the house on social media, showcasing her beautiful life. Her Instagram was filled with vibrant photos of her in the living room, sipping wine and hosting friends. I could almost hear her laughter from my empty apartment. To make matters worse, Claire often mocked me in her posts. "Jason, you should really try harder. Maybe I can give you some tips." I wanted to scream, to tell her that I was working hard in my own way, but I felt invisible. Months passed, and I hit rock bottom. I was living paycheck to paycheck, barely scraping by. I started to brainstorm ideas for my own business. I remembered my childhood passion for woodworking, something I had set aside in pursuit of the corporate ladder. I decided to take a leap of faith. I spent countless nights in my friend's garage, transforming wood into furniture. I started with small items, coffee tables, chairs, and eventually custom pieces. The work was therapeutic. I lost myself in the rhythm of sanding and smoothing wood, the smell of sawdust filling the air. Slowly, I built a small online presence, sharing my creations on social media. I documented my process, the failures and successes, and people began to take notice. Then came the breakthrough. One of my pieces, a beautifully crafted dining table, caught the eye of a local influencer. She shared it on her platform, and overnight, my business exploded. Orders came flooding in, and I poured every ounce of energy into this venture. I built my brand, hired a small team, and within a year, I had a thriving business. I was no longer the failure my dad had labeled me. I was finally making a name for myself in the woodworking community. I started attending local craft fairs and even secured a spot in a renowned artisan market. Each sale felt like a small victory, a validation of my hard work. Meanwhile, Claire's world was beginning to crumble. She was laid off from her marketing job due to company downsizing. At first, I felt a pang of sympathy, but that quickly turned into a sense of justice. She had always looked down on me. Maybe now she'd understand the struggle. Months passed, and I watched as she tried to find a new job, but nothing seemed to stick. The bills piled up, and the beautiful house my parents had given her became a burden. I heard through mutual friends that she was struggling to keep up with mortgage payments, and soon enough, the house went into auction because they couldn't afford to make necessary repairs. I couldn't help but feel a mix of satisfaction and concern. Claire had always dismissed my struggles, and now she was facing the consequences of her choices. I found myself wondering if I should reach out, but a part of me wanted her to experience the reality of her situation. One evening, as I was wrapping up a successful day at work, my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. It was my mom asking if I could call her. I hesitated, but eventually dialed her number. "Jason," she said, her voice shaky. "Things have gotten tough for Claire. They're facing foreclosure. We need your help." I felt a mix of emotions, anger, pity, and a strange sense of satisfaction. "You kicked me out and gave everything to her. Why should I help?" "Because she's your sister. Please, we're in desperate need." As I hung up the phone, I couldn't help but replay the events in my mind. My dad's words echoed, "You're a failure." But now I was anything but that. The next day, I drove to my childhood home, a place filled with memories, both good and bad. I saw the for sale sign in the yard, the house looking more neglected than I remembered. Claire stood outside, her face pale and drawn. When she saw me, her eyes widened, and for a moment we both froze. "Jason," she began, her voice trembling, "I didn't expect to see you here." "Neither did I replied, crossing my arms. "I heard things have been tough. I know I haven't been the best sister, but I'm desperate. Can you help?" I took a deep breath, biting back the urge to gloat. "I'm here to let you know that I'm going to buy the house at the auction." Claire's eyes widened in disbelief. "What? You're going to take it from me?" "Absolutely. This was my home too, and I'm going to reclaim it." I could see the panic rising in her eyes as she realized that her life was spiraling out of control. The day of the auction arrived, and I bid with confidence, determined to secure my childhood home. Each bid felt like a step toward reclaiming my dignity. Finally, the gavel struck, and I was the new owner. I felt a mix of triumph and vindication. When I finally stepped through the front door, it felt surreal. I was back, but this time I was in control. I could hear the echoes of laughter from my childhood, but they felt different now. I called my parents and told them to get out. "You've made your choice. Now you have to live with it." They were shocked and pleaded with me, but I stood firm. "You've treated me like a failure for so long. Now it's time for me to take charge." I could see the hurt in their eyes, and for a moment I felt a twinge of guilt. But then I remembered the years of being belittled, the constant comparisons to Claire, and the way they had dismissed my dreams. This was my time. Once I had the house, I made it clear to my parents and Claire that they needed to vacate. The house had become a reminder of all the pain I had endured, and I was ready to turn it into something new. I hired a contractor to renovate the place, transforming it into a workshop for my growing business. I sold the house shortly after, making a substantial profit. With the money, I expanded my business and moved into a larger workshop. I hired more team members, and the demand for my products continued to grow. I even started offering workshops to teach others the art of woodworking, something I had always been passionate about. Claire, on the other hand, was left to deal with the consequences of her choices. I kept hearing snippets from mutual friends about her struggles, how she was living in a small apartment and still searching for a stable job. Every story felt like a reminder of how far I had come and how much she had lost. Looking back, I realized that life is unpredictable. My dad's harsh words didn't define me, they fueled my fire. I learned that success isn't just about money or status, it's about resilience and the relationships we build. Now, as I sit in my office, I can't help but smile. I've built not just a business, but a life I'm proud of. I've learned to forgive, but I also understand the importance of standing up for myself. In a twist of fate, I even received a message from Claire a few months later asking if we could talk. I was hesitant but agreed to meet. During our conversation, she admitted that she had taken her success for granted and that my journey inspired her to reconsider her own life choices. So, here's to second chances and new beginnings. Life has a funny way of turning everything around when you least expect it. Thank you for listening. If you've ever felt overlooked or judged, remember, it's never too late to prove yourself and rebuild your life.